Greetings, adventurers. I have the second edition Complete Spacefarer's Handbook. Now, this is from second edition, but I believe it's useful for either second or fifth edition Spelljammer work. So, the Spelljammer campaign books or campaign box sets are separate from this. This is a just standalone little splat book. It was published towards the end of second edition. You might be lucky enough to find a copy of an old one laying around somewhere in an old bookstore or something, or you can go to Drive-Thru RPG, get it as a print on demand or as a PDF. Good luck with reading the PDFs. They don't always work out. But I'm postulating that this book is useful for not just a second, but a fifth edition Spelljammer campaign. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this book, and I'm going to tell you what's in it, and you can decide for yourself. Okay, so in the beginning, weapon proficiencies. Now, that only really applies towards second. Non-weapon proficiencies and how they work differently in a Spelljammer campaign. So, for example, animal lore. Despite the wildly varying environments of wild space, the general understanding of animal behavior conferred with this proficiency is applicable to the creatures of space. You may get a -1 or -2 adjustment on your checks, but generally it works. Etiquette. Knowing proper etiquette requires a brief acclimatizing period to ensure proper behavior. So there's going to be a penalty at first when your groundling character meets a spell jamming culture. Okay. The inhabitants of the world. So Orth and Gray Space. Orth being where the Greyhawk stuff was. Toril, Forgotten Realms, and Realm Space. Kryn and Kryn Space. So it's like they're talking about these various campaign settings and how spell jamming ships would interact with these cultures as they show up. Okay, that may or may not apply to you. There are a number of new species or player character races introduced, some of which showed up in later editions and some I don't think they did. Drakon, a dragon centaur thing. Looks weird. I wouldn't bring it into my campaign. The GIF, powerfully muscled 9-foot-tall mercenaries, big old stocky dudes with hippopotamus heads and a very colonial British era mannerisms to them. I guess they're pretty popular. So yeah, you're going to find that. I believe they are specifically included in the 5e Spelljammer stuff. Gromans, gorilla-like creatures with strong shoulders, long arms, 9-foot span. Okay, cool. Big gorilla dudes. I don't think that really went anywhere. Hadozi. Now, they're introduced here. They are totally not the Azarians from Star Frontiers. They tend to work as deck crew. They tend to find work that way. Prefer to join the crews of other nations. Fond of elves as employers. Yada yada yada. They're just good crew to have. They do not include in here any word of them being awakened slaves or something like that, which Wizards did add to the lore post TSR. But that's a big deal in a few months ago on the internets. But, okay, I'd include those because they are expected in a 5e campaign. The Herwati, an ancient reptilian race, seems weird. I don't think I'd include them. Lizard men. Now, lizard men or lizard folk in this setting were hatched from eggs that were closer to the sun than the terrestrial lizard folk. So these lizard folk are more intelligent. They're still a bit savage, a little rough around the edges, but they're playable as a PC race. Okay, so you can be a lizard dude. I'll allow it. Rastipedes and Zixchil are two different species of insect dudes. Maybe I'd allow it. Maybe we just use Thrycreen, even though Athos specifically does not intersect any spelljamming hubs, or it's just not done. This one I found interesting. Scro. S-C-R-O. That's orcs backwards, obviously. The Scro are a muscular goblinoid race. They resemble orcs but are larger, stronger, and more intelligent. They average 6 feet in height, with long, sharp teeth filed to a point and inscribed with various totemic symbols and inset with tiny gems. Yada, yada, yada. They are a military-minded people, as much so as the Gif. Their entire lives are oriented around the military hierarchy, with larger, more powerful Scro at the highest levels. However, while the Gif serve their military hierarchy to pursue glory and fame, they seek mayhem, destruction, and the devastation of their enemies. Their society is codified in a rigid set of laws and customs laid down by the founder of Scro Society, Dukgash, the first almighty leader. The Spartan lifestyle that this code permits is oriented towards improving the mind and body so that victory can be achieved. Scro spelljamming vessels are inherently warships. Their shipboard's weapons are oriented for quickly grappling with enemy ships so that hand-to-hand combat can begin. They're excellent strategists, etc., etc. Now, the description in here even ends with they receive a +1 on strength due to their strong muscles and enforced discipline. Okay? These sound like a lawful evil rather than chaotic evil species by their culture, however they want to work that. But honestly, the way I'm reading this, I am reminded more of hobgoblins than orcs. So you just throw hobgoblins out there instead of them being an alternate orcs. Just use the hobgoblins and save yourself like a step. That's just me. Okay. Spacefarer kits. Now, kits were something in 2nd edition that's like the archetypes or subclasses of 5th edition, except a kit was optional. Okay? You could be a standard fighter, or you could be a fighter with a kit, and the kit gave you special advantages, but also disadvantages. Okay? That's that background. Now these kits, or archetypes, or however you want to do it, they don't just serve to give you special abilities. They serve to help define what's going on here. So, for example, the Corsair. The Corsair is a roving warrior sailing the space lanes, seeking pirates and other criminals. They are semi-official agents of the law of their systems, or perhaps only of a single nation within the system, traveling under letters of marque with authorization to attack and board suspicious or known criminal vessels and bring the booty home. They are the custom agents, border patrol, and first line of defense for many spacefaring worlds. So here in the description, you're basically describing that they are somewhat legalized pirates and somewhat your Coast Guard, your Border Patrol, and this is helping to define the setting. You're knowing that this type of thing happens. Crusader. The Crusaders are religious warriors, bringing the sword and the truth to the heathens of the known spears. They're proselytizing conquerors who seek to bring all beings of space under the governing umbrella of their true religion, whichever one that is. Okay, tells you that's going on. Frontiersman, the explorer of the known spears. Okay. Marine, the soldier of shipboard life. Okay, gotcha. Merchant. You know there's going to be merchants, but here they give you rules for how you can run a merchant character. It's assumed you're playing a fighter because it's a fighter kit. I think we could put this onto other classes. Special benefits. In addition to the normal money received by every beginning warrior or whatever character, the merchant receives a cargo. The cargo could be gems, jewelry, spices, non-magical texts, or more normal goods. The precise nature of this cargo is unimportant. As a rule, however, each 10 units of cargo consumes 1 ton of cargo space aboard ship. You start with 3 units. The cargo has the following properties. Every time the merchant enters a different port, he may buy and sell cargo. The exact cargo exchange is not important. As a result of this, the merchant makes 1d6 gold piece profit per unit of cargo. Thus, a new merchant earns 3d6 gold piece profit every time he changes ports. The DM may reduce or even eliminate this profit if he feels that the 2 ports are close enough to make such trading unprofitable. The merchant may also buy and sell without traveling. If so, he earns the d6 gold piece per unit of cargo each month. So you stay in port and, while repairs are made, you go do a little business. You're not going to make a whole lot of money that way, but it makes some. A merchant may add to his cargo by investing money. As a rule, each 50 gold piece invested will purchase 1 additional unit of cargo, which will eventually pay off. This cargo may be then used for further trading in the next port. In an emergency, in lieu of making a profit, a merchant may liquidate his cargo by selling it off. Each unit of cargo sold produces 1d6 times 10 gold pieces. You may lose money by selling the cargo for less than your investment, but it is presumed that the merchant may have to sell at a loss. You are not required to sell all of your cargo when you liquidate. However, you must decide how much cargo to sell before making the roll. Once you've decided how much to liquidate, travel to a new port a month before you do it again. Special hindrances. Merchants are viewed as venal even when they're not. Buyer beware is the watchword throughout the known spheres. Thus, merchants suffer a negative 2-1 reaction rolls when dealing with other people in a commercial setting. This is kind of like how people used to, joke about used car salesmen are always such terrible people. They are liars and thieves. Ooh, do not trust them. So there's a little bit of a negative reputation. You're making money. You may be honest, you might not be, but there is a reputation of dishonesty or such. But you could adjust that into any, character class. Wizard kits. The Arcanist. You're a merchant, but you more buy and sell magic items. Astronomer. Wizard. Student of the known spheres, you study the spheres, the stars, the phlogiston, the worlds of space. You're going to be the navigator and the source of information when you interact with new and exciting things. It's like, okay, this guy, we're seeing this weird creature. Have you heard anything about it? Well, I've been reading, and it looks like imposter, an illusionist who passes himself off as different people. Diplomat. Evangelist. Yes. So, this book came out in the 90s, I do believe, which would have been the televangelists on TV were kind of a thing, and there was a whole thing about that. Medicus, a priest who specializes in both magical and non-magical healing. Missionary. That's different than a evangelist. They take different approaches to their religion. Whereas the evangelist seeks to convert through persuasion and charisma, the missionary improves the lives of the heathens, in their opinion, as an inducement to get them to join his religion. While the evangelist may produce more spectacular and sudden results, the missionary is more tenacious in the long run and more likely to transform the societies he visits rather than the orator evangelist. So they're going to show up, they're going to dig you a new well, they're going to teach your kids how to read, and hopefully you like this guy and you're going to say, hey, they're following a good way of life. Maybe I'll do the same. Rogue kits, the Aparusa, a clan of space wanderers who travel from system to system, making a living off the gullible and the unwary. They do use the word gypsies at least twice in this description. You're a member of a clan of rogues, con people, Yeah, special hindrances. Distrusted. Courier. Harlequin. A harlequin being a wandering entertainer of space. So you're the bard. When your ship goes from port to port, you're gonna set out, be an actor, be a circus performer, whatever, and try to make a few coin. Privateer, a space predator. You're a pirate, essentially. Salvager. You're out there looking through all the crashed and wrecked space junk trying to make a buck. Traveling tow truck operators, perhaps. But it kind of gives you an idea. If these types of kits or archetypes exist, then that's what's going on in this setting. And there's guidance for creating new kits. They wanted the DMs and the players to come up with new stuff on their own. And they would provide you the mechanics to help do this. Some ideas for personalities for Spacefarers: the Compromiser, the Carefree Wanderer, the Vigilante, the Xenophobe. I mean, whatever. Just a few personality archetypes to get you started. You can, of course, run your character how you and your DM see fit. But that's the way it is. New non-weapon proficiencies: cartography, fast talking, fortune telling. Okay. Being proficient in operating crew-served weapons, like the ballista and the bombard, the catapult, the Greek fire projector, and the jettison. Okay. Wild space navigation, space heraldry, to identify the crests and symbols that denote different persons and groups. So as opposed to, knowing which particular kingdom of Toril a certain banner belongs to, this is knowing that, the pennant on the mast of that nearby hammer ship is that of the dreaded Captain Clive the Fearsome. So, hey, let's avoid that ship because that dude has a bad reputation. Zero gravity combat proficiency, so you take less of a penalty. Chapter 6, Logistics. Now, whereas 5e's Spelljammer box set was really skimpy on how actual ships work, or the actual ships of their setting, provisioning the crew, maintaining the vessel, repairing the vessel, new equipment, personal equipment, how docking in civilized ports works. So this is going to give you, the DM, the opportunity to say, okay, approaching dock, you do this and you do that, and there's a customs inspection, and here's how that would work. Docking and berthing fees, getting underway. You got all this stuff going on, and they're giving you a set of guidelines how you can run it. But of course, as always, how you run your campaign, how you run your setting is up to you. Spacefaring organizations. Now, this is going to give you some ideas for what you want to include in your setting. They're providing some faiths of space. The first one, the Temple of Ptah, Ptah. This would be the Egyptian pantheon's little dwarf dude whose skin was coal black and his eyes glowed like the black of space, and his eyes glowed with the stars. Like there was just, the stars are in there. And that was their deity of space itself. The priests of Ptah are amongst the most forceful proponents of religion in the known spheres. They believe their guy is in charge of everything. There's a group called the Path and the Way, which are two organizations somewhat linked, both the Path and the Way, or the Path and the Way. They believe that all of the deities have a place in a celestial bureaucracy, and none of them is really above, any of the others, but, that they all work together and so on. The Celestians, the wandering clerics of Celestian. They believe in travel, rarely settling in one place, and preferring to visit as many different planets and such as possible. Now, they're considered useful by many spelljamming groups because they seek to wander. They're always willing to pilot long journeys through the flow. The travel. They refuse to engage in any slave trading ships or warships or any of that nonsense. They just like merchant ships and passenger ships and such. Military brotherhoods such as the Elven Imperial Fleet, which are mentioned in the 5e Spelljammer variant. The Company of the Chalice, a traditional order of good and lawful warriors dedicated to the conquest of evil. The Pragmatic Order of Thought, a loose organization of neutral good and chaotic good individuals founded on the ideas that all people deserve liberty of thought and freedom, that slavery is an abomination, and that travel and trade should be unrestricted. The 10th Pit. They want to establish the peace in space with a very controlled way. And okay with themselves at the top. Trading companies. Give you ideas of some trading companies. The Seekers, a group dedicated to knowledge. The Shapers, a spacefaring organization that represents the Wizard School of Invokers. I'll give you some ideas for some factions that you could have pitted against each other. Now, slavery was something that the evil cultures practiced, so there will be some mentions of slavery. It is generally considered an evil act to enslave another creature. Okay? If you don't want any mention of slavery in your campaign, don't put it in there. Simple as. But there is mentions of slavery, slave traders, etc. They are presented as villains. Okay? Keep it in there as a villain group to fight against, or not at all included. Your choice. So, where was I? Campaign design, chapter 8. Now, this is edition agnostic, I'll say. Do you want to start with groundling or spacefaring characters? Short-term or long-term campaigns? What are some of your possible campaign themes? Are you guys a bunch of merchants? Are you a bunch of explorers? The Resistance, in which case you're opposed to one of the current ruling factions in an area? Are you pirates? Are you mercenaries? Are you the law? I am the law. Yes. Go, Judge Dredd. The whole making up of characters rules, that's going to be edition specific. We can skip that. In campaign design, they talk about how various spells in 2nd edition work differently in space as opposed to on the ground. This is going to be edition specific. Now, your 5e spells, you don't have the same spells. For example, Cloud Trapeze from the Oriental Adventures book, which, I mean, that spell I haven't seen anywhere. Okay. Hornung's Random Dispatcher. This spell cannot be cast in the Phlogiston. It's from Tome of Magic, 2nd edition book. Haven't seen it anywhere in 5e. So there's not all of this is going to translate if you want to use this 2nd edition book in a 5th edition campaign, but it's going to give you some ideas. Strongholds, the construction site and the workforce, climate types, geography, how to build strongholds. That's not something really addressed in 5e, because we don't really have characters building their own strongholds. But if you're running a 2e game, grab your 2e Spelljammer boxed set or print-on-demand book that's scanned copies of the box set, and grab this. If you're running a 5e Spelljammer book, grab this. It will be of some assistance. In fact, if you're running a 5e game, you should probably grab all the 2nd edition stuff because the 5e version was so lacking. I mean, it was 3 teeny little comic books made thicker by having them bound separately all in hardback, so you had more cardboard to take up the space. Disappointing. Disappointing. But anyway, if you can find yourself a copy of the Spacefarer's Handbook, I'll provide some links in the description down below. Good luck. DM Kurt, out.